Well, hello, hello, hello. It's Thursday. Thursday is one of my favorite days because it's PitchZone Day. PitchZone is usually a meeting where coaches get together, four of them, to help one presenter with a short pitch. Unfortunately, our presenter today had a family emergency and couldn't make the meeting. But that is no problem whatsoever because if we are already here, four top coaches in their fields, we are just gonna turn this into some kind of a top tips session. And I encourage everybody who's watching us live right now, ask us questions in the comments. Ask us any question that you may have about pitching, about presenting, or anything else that's on your mind. So let me bring in the coaches that we have here today. The first one, familiar to everybody who is watching PitchZone from time to time, Nathan Gold. Nathan, how are you today?
We're fantastic. Out here in California, we're starting to get some rain today, so we need it. I'm ready.
You definitely need rain. Did you have a great Thanksgiving? I know you always travel to a beautiful location, one of the most beautiful spots in the world. How was it?
It was really nice. You're talking about Mendocino, California, a real beautiful place. It was all family and no tech, very, very little tech. It was very nice.
Awesome, 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 awesome. Our next coach that we have here today, let me see. I'm messing up the buttons here. My apologies for that. Our next coach here is Stuart Pink. Stuart, how are you? You've been a frequent coach at PitchZone as well. For those that don't know Stuart, Stuart has been a finalist at the World Championship of Public Speaking, so he knows a thing or two about high-stakes presentations and preparing for those moments that, you know, really get those butterflies doing something. Stuart, how are you today?
I'm great, thank you. It's a great time of the year, enjoying Thanksgiving. England are through in the World Cup, but so are the USA. So my American family and my British family are all speaking to each other. So everything is just great right now.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, it's always great to have you here and glad you had a great Thanksgiving. We are both, you know, I lived in the States for quite some time, 20 years. And I think Thanksgiving has always been my favorite of the holidays. There's just a special vibe. So I'm very, very glad you had a really good time, Stuart. Now, let's bring in a new coach, a new addition to the PitchZone team of coaches, Susan Trumpler. Susan, welcome to our small group of coaches. How are you today?
It's such a pleasure to be here with you all. Thank you. I'm honored that you invited me to be one of your esteemed coaches.
Oh, when we met, it was like, you know, immediately my dream to have you as a voice on our panel here. Susan is, she has a lot of experience in the corporate world. And then about 12 years ago, she turned to coaching and said, you know, I have learned so much in my career. I have learned so much in my life. I want to help others to achieve more of their potential. So, Susan, it is a real pleasure. Now, you also wrote a book, and I never exactly know how, you know, to say. So, what's the name of your book, Susan?
Well, I'll give you the R-rated version instead of the G-rated version.
Okay.
But it is, the name of the book is, Oh Shit, I'm in Sales? And it's a guide, it's a handbook for entrepreneurs on how to reset their sales mindset for more success.
It's absolutely beautiful. I love that title, not because of, you know, the swear word or whatever, because in my vocabulary there are no swear words. Every word is okay in the context, right? It always depends on the context. And I am so with you there that, we are all in sales. No matter what your business card says, no matter what your title says, we are all in sales. So we have a couple of people joining us here. Of course, like almost every session, we have Let's Go Viral. Yay, hello, Let's Go Viral. Thank you for this comment here. Exceptional panel. I couldn't agree more. And as much as you love catching us live, we love you on this show here because your comments are always right on the spot. We also have Dwayne Wood. Dwayne, real pleasure seeing you here as well. And yes, please hop on whenever you want to practice a pitch. I think that would be ultra, ultra, ultra fun. So Dwayne, get in touch with me. And of course, we have Rick Pollack. Rick is another one of our coaches, and he's hailing from Boston, Massachusetts. And of course, Massimo Peroncelli from Thailand, who is really, really happy to see a new coach as well. So Susan, you are absolutely, we've been waiting for you.
Thank you.
And then we also have Kirk Bogle. Kirk will be our presenter for next week. Unfortunately, he cannot make it into this session here today, but I look forward to seeing you already next week, Kirk. This will be a lot of fun. So now, what are we gonna do? We have 40 minutes, not quite, but almost 40 minutes time to just share our own tips, share our own experiences that we have made when it comes to preparing for presentation, preparing for high stakes pitches, and so on. So let me just start with you, Susan. What is in your book? What is the number one thing that people can do to be more persuasive, to play that role of, oh shit, I am in sales. Now, how can I, so what would you say?
So here's the thing. When you're pitching anything, selling anything, you're providing a solution to a problem, right? And that sounds so trite. Like everybody's like, yeah, I know. There's a problem, there's a solution. But there's so much noise out there and so much competition. And to really be able to create a unique environment for yourself, you have to dive deeper into the problem and get to the emotional level. And I think when you're pitching, especially if you're pitching, for financing, like one of the commenters asked around finances, it's kind of interesting because you're pitching to solve a problem for the person you're pitching to, right? They're looking for someone to fund, but yet your ultimate problem is the problem that you're solving for the customer. And that tells them when they're going to be successful. So it's a chain of problems that you really have to keep at the back of your mind in order to create that emotional groundswell and move, because people buy on emotion and they justify it with logic. And if you aren't touching that deep emotion in someone, they're just going to pass you by.
Susan, that is a very interesting distinction. After 15 years of helping people, get their pitches together with the problem statement wherever they put it, I have never looked at it the way you just described it. And that's just mind-blowing. I mean, you got the problem that they're talking about that they're solving. That's obvious. And that's typically all they talk about. But what I think I just heard you say is that part of persuading your investor is you have to understand the investor's problems as well. Wow.
And why you can uniquely be the person that will help
blown.
them be successful, right? Oh, cool.
Mind blown.
Good. Job done. See you later.
You very seldom see that, You very seldom see that with Nathan being mind blown like that. So thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
But one of the things I think is brilliant, though, about that analysis is I think so many people who are reluctant salespeople feel like there's an element of they're not worthy, or they might be tricking an audience into buying something because they've got targets to hit. But when you reframe what you're doing as solving the problems that your audience have, if anything, you then have an obligation to share with them what it is that you're going to. You are actually going to make their lives better. You need to help them. They need to hear what you have to say. And that shift of mindset is so helpful, I think.
Oh, I love the way you said that, Stuart. And that's what I hear all the time when I'm doing sales coaching is, oh, I don't want to be pushy. You know, I don't want them to think that I'm greedy. It's like you need to just turn that around 180 degrees and say, I can't be the person holding back a gem that someone needs because I have an issue making an offer, right? They need what you have. And if they don't, you shouldn't be pitching. So it is really just turning that perspective around can make all the difference in the world for anyone who's doing any kind of a pitch or sale.
And they need what you have when you're in front of an investor. They need your company.
They
Right?
do. This is what
As
they
part of their
do.
portfolio. But I think people pitching, me included, in coaching them, I don't necessarily, talk about that until they get to the ask or the call to action slide. But I'm going to now start to reframe my own mind. It's already been reframed. Thank you for that. That was instant. To helping them understand that there are two problems here. The problem that you're solving for the world and the problem that you're solving for the investment firm or angel that you're presenting to.
Exactly.
Very cool.
Indeed. Absolutely great start of this session here today. So Massimo has a question about story, in which the hero is the audience, right? But I think it's always hard to include the audience in our story. Any tip? Who wants to run with this one?
At the risk of monopolizing this, could I
No,
take this?
please do. Absolutely.
Massimo, I love that question. Okay, so I have this little friend in my back pocket. I don't know if any of you have heard of Donald Miller, but he and I work together. He wrote the book Story Brand, over $1 million bestseller, and I would recommend it for anyone who believes in exactly what Massimo is asking. The hero, you are never the hero of the story. Your customer, who you're pitching to, they're the hero. You're someone who's called a guide, where think about Karate Kid. Okay, so you have the Karate Kid, and then you've got what was the coach's name? Oh,
Miyagi.
So,
Miyagi,
Yeah.
Mr. Miyagi,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So everybody thought Mr. Miyagi was, the winner here because he was able to help Ralph become good in karate. But no, he's the guide. He's the one who took, and it's called the hero in the hole. Okay, at the beginning of any story, your hero is in a hole. He's got a problem, a challenge that he can't overcome to get what he wants most in life. And so the guide, AKA whoever is selling something, is the one who comes alongside them and takes them by the hand and shows them the way to what they want. And the reason that really resonates with people is because everyone wants to visualize their own success. They don't want you to be the hero. They want to be the hero. So if you can tell your story that way, and the way that I love to coach my people on that, Massimo, is exactly where we started with. What is the problem that your hero has? What's the challenge that they have getting what they want most? And then how can you position yourself as someone who can guide them towards, your solution guides them towards what they want, but they're always the hero. And that is what will attract people to your message.
this is so beautiful. Very, very well put. It's one of the things that I spend a lot of time with is the hero's journey, is, helping people understand. And I always say, we are basically a world full of, we are now 8 billion people since about 10 days, right? We went over the 10 billion, 8 billion people. And I always say it's basically that these are 8 billion heroes that are on a journey out there. And if your offer, if what you can do to help them, to guide them, matches with the stage that they are in on their journey, sales isn't sales anymore. It's helping. It's and Susan, you and I, we have the same or some of the same people in our lives. Luria, I'm talking about Luria right now, right? And she just recently said something about, if you do it right, people are happy to toss money at you. Right? If you do it right, people are so happy to toss money at you. And it was a meeting with about 80 people in there. And she asked, who in here has ever been happy to buy something from me? And every single person immediately raised a hand and said, of course, because it's an exchange of value, right? It's an exchange of value. And the trick is to find out where is somebody on their specific journey. And of course, we are all on many journeys, right? You can take buying a car. Buying a car is a journey. It's a hero's journey, right? That starts out with a call to adventure. At one point, you are just tired of your old clunker, and you say, maybe I need to buy a new car. But usually then we are pushing it off, we are hesitating. And at one point there is a certain nudge, the engine dies or whatever, and you go like, okay, now I'm really, really fed up, right? And these are just the first 3 steps of the hero's journey until you get to the point where you cross the threshold into the unknown. And every single one of these stages is a great, great opportunity for people to help someone master that. And so when it becomes, or when it comes to story and storytelling, I see so many people right now, they are just telling stories for the sake of story, right? They read somewhere on LinkedIn that, a good pitch, a good presentation, it is story-based. And they're adding story, without thinking too much. What should the underlying message of the story actually be? And the most simple version of that is transformation or change is possible. And I have the means to speed that up for you.
Could I add one thing to that? Because your example around purchasing a car is so perfect for this. Transformation is what people are looking for. And that's why they're seeking solutions. What they're looking, though, is for a transformational identity. Like they see themselves as something that they want to become more of. And car purchasing is perfect. Nobody is like walking to work every day or right? No one is riding their bike because they don't have a car for the most part. People already have a car. Why do they want or need a new car? Most of the time it's because what it would make them feel like who they would become. I used to drive this great little convertible sports car, and when I got in it, I felt like, oh, $1 million. And that's the feeling that I wanted, right? So it wasn't hard for somebody to talk me into that. But let's bring that back to what we do every day, hearing pitches or selling to people. What is the transformational identity that your person is looking for? And if you can nail that and be able to tell your story around that transformation, now you're hitting really, really close to what would move someone into action to buy something.
Can I
Very
jump
cool.
in here? Because I think this is fascinating what both of you have just said. And to me, there are 2 key things that you need to think about when you're telling a story, especially if you're presenting in front of an audience. And the first one is that relatability of your story and your hero. So you might have had an exceptional experience like climbing Everest or winning an Olympic gold medal, and you can tell that story, but you're not really telling it because that person in the audience listening to you is going to win an Olympic gold medal. And if that is all your story is, it loses its effect because the audience watching think, well, great, good for you. I'm really happy for you. And that's an interesting story, but how does it relate to me? And so if you've got one of those experiences, you're having to think, well, what was it on my struggle, on my path, on my journey that I learned that will be useful for this audience to learn. So that's one aspect I think about storytelling. The other aspect is the originality. So say we're back again with the car sales story. If we just tell a story about buying a car, it's pretty boring. We've all heard it a million times before. So I would be urging a speaker or a person presenting to be thinking, okay, what's my different angle here? What might be humorous or novel that is going to catch the audience's attention, and they're going to remember this story and think, oh yes, that was a brilliant point. Because you mentioned, Claudio, I love the World Championship of Public Speaking in Toastmasters. One of the things I find amazing there is some of the very best speeches are such simple stories. One of my favorite world champions had a speech about changing a tire, and the speech is a perfect speech. The name Press Vasilev, changed by a tire, if you ever get the chance to watch it. But you can make an ordinary everyday story remarkable too. So originality and relatability are always things I'm looking for when I'm looking at stories.
I'll pick up right there, if you don't
Thanks.
mind,
Thanks.
and add one thing to this whole discussion, and that is, I hear the word sales, sales, and sales, and while I am comfortable with that word, I can tell you 95% of my clients cannot stand that word. They don't want to be in sales. They're not born salespeople. They want to have nothing to do with it. So I love the word, and I can be very comfortable talking about it. I just want to help the audience realize that what Susan is talking about in her book, if you also, I'm sorry, Susan, if you replace the word sales with persuasion, that is the business we are all in. You could say we're all in sales, and I don't want to, split hairs here. And I tell my clients, look, you don't have to be in sales. You just have to learn how to persuade your audience to take action. They go, oh, okay, all right, sure. Now, how do I do that? And that's when I tell them, have you read the book Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion? And they go, no, I never heard about that. Oh, well, go get that book and you'll learn the 6 principles of persuasion. And then your storytelling has more purpose when you integrate the persuasive language that ultimately gets your audience to take action. So I just want to bring that distinction up, because I do love sales, and 95% of my clients don't.
And this is another very, very good distinction, because although for us it means the same, persuasion versus sales, some people and every word that we are speaking is in some way or another an emotional trigger. It's an emotional trigger that it brings up feelings, right? And if somebody has such an aversion to sales, now, as far as Susan's book, the title is perfect, right? It's absolutely perfect, because that's exactly the point she's making, right? It's like, don't be afraid of, that word, sales, and, we all know the pushy salespeople, we all of a generation that, when I was a kid, we still had door-to-door salespeople, right? And they were spectacular. I mean, I learned a lot from them. I was just watching, but it's that kind of personality that people try to avoid. But again, Nathan, I think you made the right distinction there, that it's all about persuasion, right? And in a sense, persuasion is a very, very easy and simple process. It really is, right? And I think the best is to go back and say, what am I really selling, right? What am I selling? And I ask this all the time. I ask my clients, I ask in workshops, I say, what are you selling? And typically people say, well, I'm selling copy machines, I'm selling computer equipment or whatever. Yeah, sure, okay. Some people, they are pretty clever and they say, well, I'm selling myself. And they're getting a little bit closer, but it's not right there, because if they would sell themselves, they wouldn't be here anymore, right? They would be gone. So they're not selling themselves either. What do we sell? At the end of the day, in my book, it's a good feeling. Now, here is the thing. Everybody feels good differently. Some people, they feel tremendously good if they go to a punk rock concert or a heavy metal concert. For some people, that's the opposite of feel good, because they want to go to the opera and they want to have some classical music, whatever it is. So it really becomes about finding out how specifically does the other person feel good. And then package and wrap your message into that kind of language that they're using and into the context that they have in their mind about what it is that makes them feel good.
Oh, I love where you're going with that. And I talk about it all the time, is you have to think about what emotion someone is experiencing. And to be quite honest, most of the time, someone doesn't say yes to you because they're afraid that it's going to be a bad decision. They're feeling fear. They don't feel safe yet. And that would be with an angel investor, that would be with an end consumer. They cannot move forward until they feel a feeling of confidence and of excitement and of anticipation, right? And so if in the back of your mind, as you're having conversations and creating the possibilities, you have to keep in mind, how are they feeling right now? What are the questions they're asking, and where are they coming from? What's the emotion that's driving that question? And I know this is all like, are you kidding me? I'm just trying to get through this, right? But no, you can't. You can't like plow through this kind of a conversation. You got to be asking the questions to understand what's happening on their inside of their mind,
Yes.
or you will not get to a yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Susan,
Absolutely.
that links brilliantly to the comment I think that Scotty had about handling nerves as the presenter, because if you're trying to think about getting your audience confident and excited, the very best way to do that is for you to be confident and excited. If you're not excited about what it is that you're presenting, how on earth is anyone else supposed to be excited? And yet that seems to me to be a classic mistake. In terms of Scotty's question, I think there are two kind of major areas that you need to work on. One of them is the mental aspect, one is the physical aspect. So there are physical tips you can use, such as breathing. I like to walk around before going into a big presentation. I don't like to be still and static. But the mental side of things, I think it's important to take the focus off you, the speaker. It should be on your audience. And we've already talked about this, that you're here to present a solution to your audience that can help them, change their lives, make them feel a lot better. And once you start worrying about them, you're not worrying about yourself. But I think another tip is to try and lower the stakes. I think it is so easy to think, my whole life, my whole career, everything depends on the next 5 minutes. And that just cannot be helpful. Even if there's an element of truth to it, life will go on even if somehow you fail. We were talking before this call, weren't we, about how it makes you human when you fail or when something goes wrong. It won't ever be the end of the world. And so I think you have to just go out there and do your best, and whatever happens will happen.
Yeah.
I love
And
that.
Stuart, you transition so nicely into this question here from Scotty, right? About what can we do with the nerves? And we still have a good 15 minutes here that we can spend with our audience. And so I would like everybody to share their tips, but not just, the general kind of thing. So let me ask you specifically, Stuart, when you think back to preparing for the World Championship of Public Speaking, the day before, what did you do? The day off, what did you do? And the hour before, what did you do?
Well, the day before was very busy because there were meetings and briefings about what we had to do, and then it was practicing the speech in front of a small audience, and of course I think the World Championship speech is not exactly like a normal speech, because it's a very rare example of a speech that I think needs to be word perfect. The reason it needs to be word perfect is there's a time limit, and if you go over the time limit, you get disqualified. And so you need to know how long the speech takes. But actually, my advice to people normally would be you shouldn't be writing out a speech and trying to remember or memorize every single word. And I think that's often the mistake we see when presentations go wrong is this big stage, lights are on the presenter, they've built it up into this huge moment, and they're trying to remember their third paragraph and they can't. And of course, if there's an investor who helps them out, I'm thinking, I've seen this on Shark Tank a million times. The investor will say, well, just tell us about your product. What does it do? And they're off and running again. And I think that's the key to every presentation. And I liken it to a speech map. I think when you give a presentation, you want a speech map, and the speech map answers two questions. Number one, where are you going? Number two, how are you going to get there? And anyone can keep those two questions in their mind, and off that, you can give your speech. So if you're giving a pitch, where are you going? I am telling you all about how fantastic my new product is and this problem that it solves. And then you have your stories, your evidence, the information you want to share. That's your route there. And that's all you really need to do. So I think it's very much getting out of your head, and it shouldn't be a memory exercise. It's just sharing that information that you have.
Do you have a specific ritual, Stuart, that you do like in the 3 minutes or 5 minutes before? Is there anything, because I do, right? I have a ritual. We might get back to it. I'm definitely going to ask also Nathan and Susan. But what is your ritual? What do you do? I'm specifically interested in the 2 to 5 minutes before.
I don't have a specific ritual other than to be trying to keep myself calm. To keep myself calm, I probably am moving about if I can, if I'm not in the same room and stuck to a chair. I don't personally listen to music because I want to be thinking about the first words coming out of my mouth. I think that the opening to any speech is so important. And so there is an element of I'm going over those first words so that they come out perfectly, and then I'm off and running. That's what I do. I don't have a particular ritual beyond that.
Yet just walking through the pitch, right? And doing that in your mind repetitively, yes. I would say that is probably the core of a ritual. Maybe you don't call it a ritual, but I think it probably qualifies. Nathan, what do you do? And you wrote the book. Exactly. I mean, you wrote the book about overcoming speaking anxiety, right? So, Nathan?
Yeah. Harness Your Speaking Anxiety is the name of the book, but anybody can have it for free. Just come to my website. You can download it. But I would I'm going to disagree with our friend Stuart here just a little bit in terms of the power of music when it comes to getting you into the state of mind you want to be in when you're in that fight, flight, freeze moment where you're going to go up next and you're starting to have all these, what John Bates calls a monkey mind starts jumping all over the place. And to me, music is the key. And it comes from just my youth and watching the Rocky film back when I was like 17 years old. That music, the Rocky theme, lights me up. It turns me into an unstoppable person because of the metaphor that music has in my life. So long story short, I was coaching an MD, PhD for his presentation at FailCon many years ago. And he asked me that same question. He said, Nathan, I'm really nervous. How do you tell people to get over their nervousness? So I said, there's 3 things: breathing, posture, and music. I said, what music do you like to use that lights you up? He says, wait a minute, wait, hang on a second here. did you just say that you use music? I said, yeah. He said, in psychology, we call that a mood inducer. I said, great. Well, then use that. He said, wow, that is so cool. I'm going to use that right away. And he came off the stage and said the music worked because he practiced and he knew what he wanted to say. All he needed to do was get out of his head, stop the monkeys jumping around there. And he knew what he wanted to say. And the music literally causes goosebumps on my body when I'm walking up on stage. And just to finish that up, I'm not running up the stairs when I get up on stage. I'm already at the top of the stairs with my arms in the air, ready to rock and roll. I don't need that 30 seconds to warm up like so many people say. I just need 30 seconds. Do that behind the stage. The music, instantly. I mean, you all have a piece of music you're thinking about right now. I know you are. That causes goosebumps. Use that. Try it. See if it works.
Can I jump in, because I love that you said that, Nathan. So I said I don't listen to music right before I go on, but I do have a secret which I have never shared with anyone, which is that every year I have competed in the Toastmasters International Speech Contest. I always pick a song and I identify my speech that year with the song, and it's a song that, yes, it pumps me up, it gets me going. I'm at the gym, I hear the song, I'm thinking about my speech, and this is for many months. It's one of the things I actually enjoy about the contest each year is, which song is going to go with this speech? So you're right, I do have that in the back of my mind.
Yeah. And that's super, because that mood inducer will hit you whether you're looking for it or not. Like the radio plays that music, all of a sudden your body goes into that same state of mind that you're in. Beautiful. Love it.
Yeah. And I love how you actually have a different song for each year, right? For each of the contests. So later on, 10 years later, you probably hear that song and you are just back exactly in that contest, right? So this is absolutely beautiful. Right. Susan, what kind of secrets do you have to get ready and into the peak state that you want to be when you need to present?
So I'm not going to add a lot of value here. I'll keep this short. I've never been a shrinking violet. I do not get nervous. I think my mother said I was born to be on the stage. When I was 2 years old, I was, producing plays at home. But my worst fear is walking into a networking room where I actually have to talk to people one-to-one, right? And I'm like, they're not going to like me. They're going to, a whole other topic we could talk about for an hour. But one of the things that I would say, I agree 100% with Stuart on, is it's the first few minutes. You find if you can get past the opening, the rest seems to flow. The nerves settle down. The adrenaline kind of settles down. So I always start every presentation with a good story. It's something that I love, that I think can bring humor, that'll show my personality, that'll make people laugh. And once I get past that, and it ties into, the theme of what I'm presenting, it's just another.
Yeah. And you are breaking up a little bit, so I'm not sure if you. Okay, you're back. You're moving again.
I'm sorry.
It just clipped off the very end. So if you can repeat your last sentence.
What I was saying is, once you get past that first portion, then you're just off and running. It becomes very, like you were saying, where are you going and how are you going to get there? Yeah. So.
And you're always so chilled. We talked about this before, because this also makes a huge difference on how our voice is coming across, right? If we are tense, we tend to speak somewhere from this area up here or even higher, this nasal kind of thing. And the more relaxed we are and can pull down that voice, and all of a sudden you put your hand on your chest and you feel it vibrate. And that's when you got something, and then pull it even further down. And when you speak from there, that's where you make lots of money and have success. So any other comments? We have about 4 or 5 minutes.
I want to just add to what Susan said, because of course we're again focusing on what the presenter's feeling and the presenter's nerves here, and brilliant advice to start with a story, to settle you down, but also your audience, because of course, many people in the audience are nervous at the beginning of a presentation. I know I am, because I'm thinking, is this going to be any good? Or is this going to be a waste of my time? That first few minutes is crucial for everyone in the room. And once you know, they're funny, they're good, they're confident, they know what they're talking about, everyone can relax. And then you know you're going to have a good time filled with value. So it's actually everyone that benefits from you telling that story and settling your nerves at the beginning.
One final thing to add on those nerves at the beginning is I especially like to meet and greet some of the people in my audience before I get up on stage. And I know what you're probably thinking. Well, how do you do that in the virtual world? Well, you still can, because you just start the meeting 15 minutes early and let everybody know in the invitation, I'll be there 15 minutes early if you want to show up early. And people generally show up early. And when a couple, and then I just have a nice little conversation. Hey, hi, how, blah, 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 blah. And then my start is usually relating to something that happened with somebody in the room. So that's automatically people go, wait a minute, you know that guy? You know that guy? How do you know that guy? You're in California. We're in blah, blah, blah. And so, yeah, that's what calms me down, is being able to say, I was talking to Susan about something just before you all got in here. And Susan goes, yeah, that's me. That's me that he's talking about. And it's just a really friendly, for me, it seems to reduce the stress in the room a little bit when I do that.
So that's so good. When it's not about you. The more you can make something about someone else, the less pressure it puts on you. And the more, I love that, the more they're like, because nobody wants to listen to somebody who gets up there and is like, wah, 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 and droning on and on about themselves. I've done this and I'm this. And like, who cares? Tell me something I care about. Right. So get out of yourself, get out of your head and get into their lives, and you're immediately at ease, more at ease.
Wow.
Well.
Wow. What a session this has been. Again, usually for anybody that watches this right now live with us or the replay, usually PitchZone is a weekly meeting where 4 coaches, like the ones that you're seeing right now, help one presenter improve and fine-tune a short pitch, somewhere around 3-minute pitch. If you are interested in having your pitch reviewed by us, please go to pitchzone.live, and to sign up, it's a very, very simple process. There is a calendar there. Look if there is a date that suits you, click on it, fill in your information, and take it from there. So I want to thank all of you, Nathan, Susan, Stuart, for spending your time here today and really sharing things with our audience that I believe have so much value when it comes to their own success pitching out there. So I definitely want to give us a little amazing kind of confetti flying around. I want to thank everybody that's been with us here live on in the program, and we will see each other again next week. Have fun, everybody. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.